Picture it. We're stuck at an abandoned asylum. The walls close in around us hallway after hallway. Different rooms come to life through the creaks and groans of the building. Our nerves are on edge because the night wind howls through the broken glass windows. Graffiti turns into tricks of the mind. Myths of the building become reality. You and I only have our thoughts to keep us sane. Time is ticking. When will you and I lose our insanity? Hello everyone, I am the cryptic mind that will be guiding us through today's episode. During my midnight shifts at work, sometimes my mind goes to the tales of the dark and mysterious, just like everyone else. Those ghost stories that only occur at 3 a.m. Stories that I read specifically to keep my mind awake and the fear alive. Why do I like to torment myself this way? I couldn't tell you, but it gives premium ideas for content for you all to listen to. Today, we are going to be diving into a question that I've always wanted to know and now have decided to explore. What is the most haunted place in America? In fact, we'll go even bigger. What is the most haunted place in the world and why? Now, whenever we're thinking about this, we have to realize there are tons and tons of haunted house stories that send chills down our spines. But what makes hearsay reality? What classifies a place as haunted? How do we even get that proof? Believe it or not, when I was younger, I threw myself into danger to find these answers through paranormal investigations I did with my friends. Was I any good? Not at all! But did it give me the best stories ever to talk about my stupidity? Yes! Yes, it did. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I do want to say that I understand to an extent what the thrill is of finding these places and going to them and the odds that the story is true compared to fake. To an extent. I'm not an expert, guys. Like, no one here is an expert that's probably listening to this channel. I am only a moron with experience and a microphone. Let's continue, shall we? Now, when it comes to America, it's hard to identify one place that is marked the most paranormal and the most gruesome. In fact, there are few that are in competition for the number one spot. However, there was one that pulled up on multiple sites and has one of the most gruesome stories to tell. The LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans, Louisiana takes the cake. At least from the research that I did. Now, the LaLaurie Mansion has a very cryptic and gruesome past that I absolutely adored listening to. Not for the fact that it was really gruesome, but for the fact that it kept me wide awake the rest of my shift because I couldn't help but think about how the hell someone could get away with this for so long. And you have to think of the time period and all the fun stuff that was happening back then. Well, not fun, but you know what I mean. And it really makes sense, and it's really sad how much sense that it makes. This is the story of the LaLaurie Mansion. Madame Marie Delphine LaLaurie was a socialite known for hosting parties in her lavish French Quarter mansion during the early 19th century. While guests enjoyed food and champagne, they were unaware of the horrors that happened only 2 floors above them. April 10th, 1834, local police responded to a kitchen fire. Originally, they were helping a 70-year-old Black woman that was trapped in the kitchen due to the fire, while LaLaurie was more focused on saving her furniture. It was found out later that the elderly woman set the fire in the kitchen herself as a cry for help. She was trying to escape LaLaurie's sadistic torture chamber. Police at first didn't believe this torture chamber. They wanted proof. Well, they got it. The elderly woman was able to send them back to the attic, which revealed several other mutilated slaves that were tied up with iron-spiked collars around their necks. This was not her first account of torturing enslaved people in her care, but it was the most gruesome. And just like the coward she was, she fled when police tried to arrest her. A mob even gathered outside of her mansion because of how badly the enslaved people were treated. Now, keeping in mind that the South in the early 19th century wasn't really known for how well they kept their own slaves to begin with, that was really saying something for them to have a mob and how badly these people were treated. In the end, her reputation was destroyed in the Southern class elites, and it was believed that she died in Paris in December of 1842. Now, the story alone is terrifying. To me, that is like one of the most gruesome things you could do to people. I'm so curious, how do you not hear either screams or cries for help in the attic of all places? But then again, you kind of have to realize this was a quarter mansion. and it had to be at a minimum of like 3 stories, right? So if everyone's on the first floor, there ain't no way in hell you're hearing someone on the 3rd floor crying for help, especially if it's like a huge, loud party going on underneath. It's sad what these people did have to go through. Like, my heart went out to them, and it's just so weird that sometimes the most gruesome stories happen in the most beautiful buildings. Like, when you see a picture of this quarter mansion, it's beautiful. Like, it was very surprising to hear that something bad even happened there. And I think that's like the best part of horror stories, and I think that's the best part of haunted houses, is that they are just simple buildings, and yet they bring to life just this macabre history that everyone adores, especially around Halloween. All right, on top of this, I also wanted to give 2 honorable mentions that I feel could have been runner-up to the #1 spot. One of them being Salem, Massachusetts. If you ever grew up in the American school system, you more than likely heard of the Salem witch trials. One of the worst bloody witch hunts in American history. Not the only one, but it was one of the worst. A second one that I want to bring up is the Eastern Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. One of the largest penitentiaries with a blood streak a mile long due to both the cruelty of prison guards and of inmates brutally attacking each other. It is a common tourist attraction that a lot of paranormal investigators go to. It's a very active haunted site, allegedly. Allegedly here. None of us have went yet. I will probably make the trip. I actually went to the Pennhurst location instead of the penitentiary whenever I had a chance to go up through Philadelphia. That one has a really screwed up history too. If y'all want to hear about that, let me know. I got some interesting stories on that one. Now, let's go to a different topic entirely. Let's find out the most haunted place in the world. Now, this one took a lot of cross-referencing, and it's a very opinionated answer. There are so many places around the world that could easily take the cake for who thinks what is the most scary. I picked this only because I thought it was like the scariest. Not only that, it showed up on every site that I clicked out on. So we are going to go with it. And to be fair, this story is like terrifying to me, but at the same time, it's so historically relevant, and I love learning of a place that actually has a very big historical backing as to why it is the way it is. Now, let us all take a tour through an island of Italy. I'm going to screw this name up, guys. I'm not gonna lie, so please, let it go. I say it in advance, just let it go. Poveglia Island, in between Venice and Lido. It is an entire abandoned island that is not open to the public, but there are supposed tour guides that will take you there. However, they will not tour with you on the island itself. This abandoned island was used as a quarantine station for people suffering from the bubonic plague. They had huge corpse fires here for when the infected died. People were literally sent there to die and then have their bodies burned in the aftermath. Can you believe that? Obviously that happened. Obviously this is historically accurate. It's very true. But can you imagine being in the 12th century? You have the plague. You may not even realize that you have the plague yet. You were just told to get on a ship and get the hell out. You end up going to an island with people who are suffering in so much worse conditions. On top of that, you are just seeing piles upon piles of burning corpses. The smell has to be terrible alone, let alone the sight. I mean, that would be horrifying to know that you are going there to die. Like, there is no chance. You are not coming back. Like, that ship is a one-way ticket. Just the idea alone, that terrifies me. Now, this area later on was also used as a mental asylum in the late 18, early 1900s. Horrific experiments were held on the mentally insane or on physical ailments that curious doctors wanted to take a look at. A very common trend throughout our history. A lot of our experiments, if anyone has ever realized, has been based on the mentally and physically impaired. And that is like the saddest thing I can possibly think of, but at the same time, it also has brought us bounds in the worlds of psychology and medicine, and it makes me ask the question all the time. Maybe I'll make this a future episode. It makes me ask the question, was it worth it? Did what horrible experiments they commit end up justifying the means in the end? I really want to take a look specifically at the Holocaust, and specifically Dr. Mendeley's twin experiments, because supposedly his research alone made bounds in the fields of medicine. So that might be a future episode. That might be worth looking at. Let me know. So there are far too many other haunted areas around the world that deserve honorable mentions, but that would make this episode way too long. If you all want to hear about it in more decrypt, horrifying places around the world, leave a comment. That is the best way to grab my attention anyways. This satisfied my curious mind for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed, and let me know your opinions in the comments down below. Was there another place that you felt deserved the top spot? In the end, this is just my opinion from the research I did. My midnight shifts sometimes give me a lot of time to delve into topics and ask more questions, find more answers, maybe even tell a few stories on the way. Again, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time.